Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking you to the Swiss Alps, to Davos.
Mentally, any.
Mentally, yes.
Oh.
And we're not just looking at the scenery. We are looking at the calendar. It's Tuesday, January 20th, 2026.
Right. The World Economic Forum is in full swing. And the vibe this year, it's not the usual.
No, it is intense. I think that's the word.
Intense is a good word for it.
Yeah.
You've got, over 850 global CEOs all crammed into this tiny resort town.
And usually it's about networking, right? Skiing, some fondue.
Exactly. High-minded themes, cooperation in a fragmented world, that kind of thing. But this year feels different. It feels less like a cocktail party.
And more like a battlefield.
Or a high-stakes chess match, maybe, where the board keeps tilting under everyone's feet. It feels gritty.
Gritty is a good word.
Yeah.
And on opposite sides of that tilting board, you have two absolute heavyweights. In one corner, U.S. President Donald Trump.
And in the other, Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng.
With those 850 CEOs kind of trapped right in the middle.
Just trying to figure out which way to lean without falling off the mountain.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to decode this moment. Not just who's meeting whom, but the shifting power dynamics, this really weird mood shift.
This cautious deference.
Cautious deference, yes. And honestly, the wildest part of this whole story, a geopolitical flashpoint involving Greenland.
Greenland. I know, it sounds like satire.
It really does.
But it's rattling global markets. It's very, very real.
Okay, so before we get to the real estate drama, let's set the scene. You have these two superpowers holding basically dueling events.
Dueling events is perfect. And the logistics of these two meetings alone tell you so much about how each country operates in 2026.
It's a study in contrasts, right?
A total contrast. So on
Right.
one side, you have President Trump's approach. He's calling a meeting of executives for Wednesday evening.
But the way it came together was...
Yeah, let's call it spontaneous.
Spontaneous is very polite. Our sources, Kalel and Semaphore, are saying the White House invitations didn't even go out until Monday.
Right. And we need to pause on that because for you listening, getting an invite 2 days out might seem normal.
But not for a CEO at Davos.
No. Their schedule is military grade. It's locked down for months. Every 15-minute slot is booked.
So when the White House sends out a drop-everything invite with 48 hours notice, it creates chaos.
Absolute chaos. Corporate staff scrambling, canceling meetings with other heads of state probably, just to clear the schedule for Trump?
But that's the point, isn't it? It's a power move.
Oh, absolutely. It's a calculated disruption.
He's saying, I am the priority. You will move your schedule for me.
It forces them to physically demonstrate loyalty. It sets the tone immediately. I'm in charge here. Now, compare that to Chinese delegation.
Okay, yeah. The other side of the coin. Vice Premier He Lifeng. Remind us who he is.
He is effectively China's economic czar, their chief trade negotiator. When he speaks, the entire Chinese economy is behind him, and he's also hosting a meeting.
But the vibe couldn't be more different.
Night and day. His is described as an exclusive, invitation-only meeting. But here's the key part. It's being facilitated by an official from the World Economic Forum.
So it's institutional, it's polished.
Exactly. It's part of the program. It continues a long tradition of these private, structured sit-downs. It signals stability, respect for the process.
So you have this chaotic last-minute loyalty test on the American side.
And this formal red carpet rollout on the Chinese side.
And they're both after the exact same thing. The loyalty, the investment dollars of the global business community.
Which brings us to the mood. Because if you rewind just 1 year to Davos 2025, it was a completely different story.
Oh, totally. Last year was a party. Executives were thrilled. Trump was back, promising tax cuts, deregulation.
It was the honeymoon phase. The business world loves tax cuts.
Of course.
But now, January 2026, that enthusiasm has, well, it's curdled. The phrase Semaphore used is hardened into cautious deference.
That sounds like fear, like walking on eggshells.
It is a kind of fear. Or maybe just resignation. The report says most CEOs have little appetite for fighting with Trump.
Why?
Because they don't think they can win. They've realized the unpredictability isn't a bug, it's a feature of the administration.
And we have a perfect example of this mindset, Tim Walsh. He's the CEO of KPMG US.
Right, a huge player. And he told Semaphore he's going to Trump's meeting, the last-minute one. But listen to why he's going.
Not to schmooze.
No, he's going to get information on tariffs. He's just trying to figure out what the rules are going to be next week.
And even then, he's not optimistic.
Yeah.
He said, and this is a quote, "I'm not sure we're getting any new information."
That quote just says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You have to go. You can't afford not to be seen there. But you don't actually expect any clarity.
You're just hoping to avoid being a target.
Exactly. The honeymoon is over. Business needs some predictability. You can handle bad news if it's consistent, but constant flux, that's a CEO's nightmare.
And speaking of flux, let's get to the iceberg in the room, the specific trigger for all this tension.
Right, Greenland.
This is where the story gets surreal. But the economic impact is very, very real.
It is.
So unpack this for us. President Trump has decided he wants the U.S. to buy Greenland.
And he's not taking no for an answer. This isn't just some casual idea anymore. It has become a central part of his foreign policy.
Okay, and because European countries, especially Denmark, obviously, but also Germany, France, the UK, because they've resisted this idea.
He has announced 10% tariffs on imports from 8 of those nations.
Wait. So just to be crystal clear, this trade war isn't about steel dumping or intellectual property.
No.
It's because they won't sell him an island.
Essentially, yes. The tariffs are punishment for what he's calling resistance to U.S. claims on Greenland, and he's threatening to escalate.
There's a deadline.
There's a very specific deadline. He warned that if the complete and total purchase of Greenland isn't finalized, those tariffs could jump to 25% by June.
By June, that's a ticking clock. And 25% is. I mean, that's enormous.
Yes.
That wipes out profit margins for entire industries.
It's a game changer. It would reshape trade across the Atlantic. And the EU is not just taking it. They're tossing countermeasures.
How big?
Potentially up to $108 billion in tariffs on U.S. imports.
Wow. Okay, so this isn't pocket change. This is a full-blown trade war.
Full-blown. You're talking French wine, German cars, everything gets hit. And you've got all these leaders in Davos, Ursula von der Leyen, Emmanuel Macron, all trying to figure out if this is a bluff or a promise.
And this is where the U.S. administration is playing a little good cop, bad cop.
Right. Enter Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary.
He got to Davos early, before Trump. And his job seems to be damage control. He's going around saying things like, America first does not mean America alone.
Which sounds nice, it sounds reassuring, but there was a warning in there too, wasn't there?
There was. In the same breath, he warned European leaders that retaliating would be very unwise.
So, be our friend, but don't you dare hit back.
That's exactly it. It's this very aggressive diplomacy. And the definition of fair trade seems to depend entirely on whether the U.S. gets Greenland.
And that disconnect is what brings us back to China. Because while Washington is, throwing its weight around over real estate,
China is sitting quietly and watching.
not capitalizing. The South China Morning Post has an analysis, and they say China is seeing a massive opening here.
Oh, for sure. When one superpower is threatening 25% tariffs over an island, Beijing gets to look at the room and say,
see? We are the stable alternative.
They're using Trump's disruption to their advantage. They're telling those CEOs, if you want a reliable partner, someone who isn't going to wake up and demand to buy Iceland tomorrow, look to us.
And it's not just talk, is it? There's an actual mechanism in place that's keeping things calm between the U.S. and China right now.
Yes, and this is the crucial piece of the puzzle. You have to remember the truce.
The truce. This goes back to the summit last October.
That's the one. Trump and Xi in South Korea, they agreed to extend the reduced tariffs until November of 2026.
So, okay, timeline check. It's January. That deal holds until November. That's a pretty long runway.
It is. And that truce is the safety net. It gives Western executives a reason, a permission structure, really, to keep their ties with China strong. They can say, look, our governments have a deal. We're safe to do business.
So China gets to play the stable partner, protected by this truce, while the U.S. is picking fights with its own allies in Europe.
Exactly. It creates this bizarre dynamic. Europe is in the crosshairs, facing immediate threats, while the strategic rival, China, is in a safe harbor, for now.
If you're a global CEO, your risk calculation gets very weird. It might actually feel safer to invest in China right now than in Germany.
Because in June, those Greenland tariffs could explode.
Exactly. The risk profile has completely flipped. Europe, usually the safe market, is now the one with the tariff cliff coming.
You know, when we do these deep dives on Davos, it's usually about these lofty goals, right? Climate change, global poverty. But this year, it's just pure survival.
It is survival and positioning. These CEOs are trapped between, on one side, a China that's projecting stability,
And on the other, a U.S. administration offering tax cuts with one hand and threatening trade wars over an Arctic map with the other.
and realizing that the excitement from 2025 has just evaporated into this cautious deference. It tells you how fast things can pivot.
It pivots from being policy-driven to being personality-driven. And that's what we're seeing. A single desire to buy an island is affecting the GDP of entire nations.
So let's bring this home for everyone listening. Why should you care about any of this?
Right. Why does it matter if Trump wants Greenland or who has dinner with whom in Davos?
Because it all trickles down. If those tariffs on Europe hit 25%, that's not just a problem for a CEO, that's higher prices for you.
We're talking about cars, cheese, wine, medicine.
All of it. It creates inflation, it could trigger a global slowdown, and if companies pivot toward China because it feels safer right now,
That shifts the long-term balance of economic power.
it deepens the world's reliance on China, ironically, pushed by U.S. policy. The whole thing is hanging by a thread called a truce and a deadline set for June.
Which brings me to one final thought I want to leave everyone with.
Okay.
We have the June deadline for the Greenland tariffs, and we have the November expiration for the U.S.-China truce.
2 ticking clocks. One in the summer, one in the fall.
So here's the question. If the Greenland deadline is in June, and the truce only lasts until November, are we just looking at a summer of absolute economic chaos that makes this current tension feel like a warm-up act?
That is the big fear. A trade war with Europe in the summer, followed by the China truce collapsing in the fall. 2026 could be a very rough ride. And you have to wonder, can corporate deference survive a 25% tariff hike? At what point do CEOs stop being deferential and start panicking?
A sobering thought. We'll be watching closely to see if anyone buys an island between now and our next deep dive. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Stay curious.
See you next time.